Bumbaco. I'm a registered dietitian, and I'm also board certified as a specialist in oncology nutrition. And I have the wonderful opportunity to present a 6-week series all about nutrition and nourishing choices for anyone who has been diagnosed with kidney cancer. We're in our 5th week already, and it's been such a pleasure to be able to present some great information. Hopefully you find it to be helpful, all about a common question that someone who is diagnosed with a kidney cancer might want to ask an oncology dietitian like myself. Now, sometimes during treatment, individuals encounter some challenges to the way that they're able to eat. And it is my pleasure to work with individuals to customize a specialized nutrition care plan that takes into consideration his or her unique circumstances. So each week, as I'm presenting you with some information, I do want to just share that that information is generalized, right? So you deserve a specialized care plan. An oncology dietitian can give you that. But also at the same time, I don't want any of the advice that I'm giving to replace the medical advice that your healthcare team might provide for you. So while these might be some great tips, I want you to keep in mind what your medical team advises is really best for you. Now, up until this week, I have kind of bragged about what oncology nutrition is and how it really helps to nourish individuals who are all along the continuum of their cancer care, and how it really makes a difference. It's significant, right? So when individuals that I work with nourish their body with choices, they find that it can support their energy levels. It reduces fatigue. It improves their quality of life. And it also helps to support their immune system. But most importantly, I think they feel empowered. They feel empowered to make a decision that they're in charge of. And what a great way to reinforce the mind and body connection and the opportunity that you have when you sit down to eat a meal. So I saved my 2 favorite questions for last, okay? So this week and next week are some of my most favorite questions that I get asked from individuals. So this week, I'm gonna present to you a pretty popular topic and a question that I often get asked. In fact, I get asked this question basically every day. And I want to help clarify what information is out there, but also at the same time, give you some solutions. So simple solutions, but solutions that are effective to help nourish your body regardless of where you are along the continuum of your cancer care. So that question for this week, a great one to ask. What should I do if I'm craving sugar? Help, I'm eating lots and lots of sugar. Isn't that bad for me? Well, let me first set the record straight. So we don't have any good, reliable evidence at this point in time that sugar feeds cancer. That's right, I said it. And that may be a shock for you, because certainly that seems to be what is advertised when we do an online search, or if we ever talk to individuals who are trying to help us. They say, stay away from sugar. It's a toxin. It's going to kill you, right? Well, let me set the record straight about that one. Again, we have no good evidence. We have no good evidence that sugar causes cancer or causes cancer to spread or metastasize. In fact, what we do know is that it's much more complicated than that. And that's where, again, if you have an individualized care plan, an oncology dietitian like myself could help you navigate your choices to help you understand what your limits might need to be for the sugars in your diet. So this complicated relationship with sugar and cancer, what it happens to be is that when we eat a lot of sugar, especially one type of sugar that I'm going to talk about, when we eat a lot of the sugar as part of an unhealthy diet over many, many years, this may cause some weight gain. And what we do know is that those who are overweight or obese, they have an increased risk for 13 different types of cancer. So that may come to be a surprise to you. So it's probably a little bit more involved than just the sugar, and something else might be explaining that associated cancer risk. At the same time, we also have some preliminary data that cancer cells don't play by the rules. So they demonstrate this, what we call metabolic flexibility, and they adapt. They adapt and they conquer. That's sort of how they play this game, right? So if we were to eliminate all the sugars in our diet, all of the carbohydrates, good and bad, in our diet that eventually turn into sugar, what happens is that cancer cells, they adapt and they use their metabolic flexibility and they find some other source of fuel so that they can continue to replicate. And that may be problematic because that becomes a problem to the host. If we start to lose muscle because we've unfortunately cut out carbohydrates in the diet, the cancer cells are going to look to adapt and conquer, right? And the last point I want to make about this sugar and cancer connection is that there are some quality carbohydrates in our diet. I'm thinking of fruit right off the top of my head. Fruit, fresh, frozen, even unsweetened dried fruit, they are full of these quality carbohydrates, but that's not all that they contain. So fruit is this package, this hefty supply of cancer fighters, fiber, antioxidants, vitamins and minerals, and also these special compounds called phytochemicals that exert anti-cancer properties. So why would you ever deprive yourself of those cancer fighters because you're afraid to eat sugar? Okay, so a little bit of sugar here and there, it's okay. It's not going to make or break you. As part of a healthy diet, a little bit of sugar here and there certainly is acceptable. And again, that's where an oncology dietitian can help. Now, let me make a distinction here. So I've been talking about fruit and healthy carbohydrates, but there's a type of sugar that we associate with less health, and that is our added sugars. So added sugars, you might understand what they are, and they sort of seem problematic in terms of our standard American diet because they supply a lot of extra calories, but not for a lot of good nutrition. So we could do better. So here's the deal with added sugars. We find them in a lot of highly processed food. So it's edible, but it's not really technically food. It's not very nourishing for our body. So we want to try to minimize those foods that contain added sugars as much as we possibly can. In fact, most Americans are consuming 20 teaspoons of added sugar per day. And this 20 teaspoons is more than 3 times what is recommended for the average female to consume in a day, as well as double the amount for what is recommended for the average male to consume in a day. So what is recommended? What do the experts advise? Well, they suggest that women consume no more than 6 added sugars, 6 teaspoons of added sugar per day. And for men, they recommend no more than 9 teaspoons of added sugar per day. So where do we find these added sugars? Well, guess what? They're kind of sneaky. They're lurking in our food supply, and we might not even know it. Some of them might be obvious to you. So things like candy and chocolate and other sweets or dessert, they have a lot of added sugars in them. But I'm going to give you 3 additional sources of added sugar that you might be surprised to learn about. The first one, maybe you don't know about this. Well, maybe you do actually. So our SSBs, sugar sweetened beverages. So sugar sweetened beverages, say that one 5 times fast, right? So our SSBs, they include, and they're our #1 source of added sugar in the diet. They include things like soda, fruit drinks, things like smoothies, things like coffee drinks. So when I go to the coffee shop, full of added sugar sometimes. But also things like sports drinks or energy drinks, they are packed with extra added sugars. So much so that you might be surprised. Some of our sodas have up to 12 teaspoons of added sugar per 20-ounce serving. So I'm going to put that into perspective for you. This is about 20-ounce glass, and here are 12 teaspoons of added sugar. Yikes, right? So would you drink that much added sugar? Probably not. Probably not. We could do better. The second source of added sugar in our diet comes from our sweet dairy and sweet dairy alternatives. So things like flavored yogurt or flavored yogurt, dairy yogurt alternatives, or our flavored dairy alternatives from milk. So not just flavored milk, but things like milk alternatives that happen to be flavored. They contain up to 4 or 5 teaspoons of added sugar per serving. So again, we could do a lot better. That's almost like dessert. You might as well go have some dessert, right? And then the last group is from our snack bars. So things like protein bars or granola bars, they can be full of added sugars as well. And up to 4 or 5 teaspoons of added sugar per bar. So again, we could do better. It's almost like these snack bars are like a candy bar, in my opinion. So we have a little bit of work to do, right, with our added sugars, because hopefully you agree that over time, you know, we could do better and they're not very nourishing. And if we can replace them with some alternatives, then we can nourish our bodies in ways that will benefit our health. So here are some solutions that I would suggest if you're finding that you want to minimize the added sugars or help address some of the cravings that you might have for sugar. The first concept is to think about consistency with your meals. I want you to balance your meals and also avoid skipping meals or delaying meals. This will help control your body's internal blood sugar levels and will definitely help satiate you so that your cravings are minimized. So balancing meals, a great example of that is if you had some oats in the morning. Here's my big canister of oats. They're a great quality carbohydrate, but I want you to balance that out with a protein and or a fat source. So a great addition to your bowl of oats in the morning would be some nuts or seeds. So things like pecans, we're coming into fall, what a great flavor that would add to a bowl of oats. Or I've mentioned these before, are hemp seeds. Hemp seeds are a great topper to almost any food you decide you want to have, and a great source of protein as well as some healthy fats in here. Another good example is if you had a slice of toast in the morning, rather than putting some butter on that toast, you could instead use some great products like some mashed avocado, or this is guacamole. And they even have plain mashed avocado in containers like this. So simple to spread on your toast in the morning. And this adds some precious fiber as well as those healthy fats and chock full of vitamins and minerals. Another good example for that toast is some nut butters. And nut butters run the gamut, right? So from almond butter to mixed nut butters, peanut butter, great choice for extra protein and extra healthy fats so that you stabilize your blood sugar for most of the day. Now, some of our snack foods tend to be high in those added sugars. So candy bar or granola bars or snack bars or even chips and crackers, you might find some hidden added sugars in some of those, but they also lack balance. So I would encourage you to partner those choices with, again, a protein or a fat choice. So whether it be something like a nut butter or something like hummus, or again, that guacamole with some vegetables. So I have some fresh from the garden here. So good. And partnering them will give you that satisfaction at the time you're eating because it's so full of fiber and water that it fills you up. But then along with the healthy fats and the healthy proteins, it'll keep you satiated for longer. The other concept I want you to think about is, could you possibly reset your palate? So did you know that we sort of learn to like sweet? Well, it's biological too. There's a biological need to want sweet, and it's for good reason. So we don't want to ignore that, right? But we potentially can reset that desire for sweet. We can reset it, right? So if we're finding we're eating a lot of extra high sugar foods and extra highly processed high sugar foods, we can minimize them and replace them with some of these whole food choices. And gradually over time, your palate will learn to like less. So for example, if you're someone who loves their sweets after a meal, that might be something that you just sort of conditioned your body and your mind to expect. But if you can replace that with some fresh fruit or even frozen fruit, you will learn to savor and appreciate how naturally sweet those options can be. I have here a cactus pear, and it's absolutely gorgeous. I just sliced it in half, and I can't wait to enjoy this later. And it has these great seeds inside, super great texture, super sweet, so delicious. The last concept, now I only have 3 today, but the last concept I want you to think about is a great one. Think about substitutions or swap outs, as I would put it. So let's go back to those top 3 sources of added sugar in the standard American diet. One of them was SSBs, right? The sugar sweetened beverages. So what is a great way to swap those out for something just as delicious, but actually even more nutritious? I love the idea of infused waters. Are you familiar with them? Holy cow, let me introduce you. So in this glass is one of my favorites. I took some cucumber right outside from the garden, and I sliced some strawberries right on top. And I'm gonna add some fresh mint to this because why not? It's beautiful. And what will happen is the flavors will infuse into that water. And it's a delicious way, and certainly so beautiful in terms of the color. A delicious way to stay hydrated. Now, if you get bored of water, you could certainly go to carbonated choices, and you could add any combination, right? So whether it be your lemon or your lime, your mint, you could add other citrus like sliced oranges, and you can add that to your carbonated or seltzer water. And it's a delicious way, again, to stay hydrated. Another option for replacing those sugar sweetened beverages are just good old plain tea, good old plain coffee. And that's unsweetened, right? So you get flavor there, but you also get cancer fighters. When we drink coffee and when we drink tea, and true tea especially, we are infusing some polyphenols into our system, and they happen to be cancer fighters. The other swap out I want to suggest, remember number 2 on that list, were the sweetened dairy products, right? So something like sweet yogurt could have up to 4 teaspoons of added sugar. So I like to always have in my fridge a good old plain old tub of Greek yogurt because it's so versatile. I use it in a lot of different ways. And here I just prepped something for myself to eat later. I have some plain yogurt, and I put right on top some frozen wild blueberries. And I'm also going to add some nuts and seeds at the time that I'm going to eat this. So I might pack this for tomorrow for breakfast on the go or an easy snack to have in the morning. It's like a parfait. It's so good. And the last one, this is where I have the most fun in this kitchen, is actually demonstrating to you an example of how to make a sugar swap out. So you could make your own snack bar. Did you know you could do that? And it's very easy to do. There's a simple template to follow. So what I want you to do, and you can use the processor or a blender or something like a NutriBullet, you're going to take 1 cup of nuts, and any nuts that you want. So whether it be a mixed combination of pecans and cashews, or even just peanuts. Or if you have an allergy, you can go to seeds, right? So pumpkin seeds, sesame seeds. You could do any combination of them. Take 1 cup of them, and then you're going to add to that 1 cup of dried fruit. So you're going to look for dried fruit that's not sweet. So a really popular choice are dates. So get some pitted dates. You're going to take 1 cup of them, but you can use whatever dried fruit you want. Maybe it's golden raisins or goji berries, or you could use apricots or dried cherries. Combination of those, you're going to add 1 cup of those right into the processor as well. And then to that, you're going to add 1/4 cup of your mix-in. So your mix-in is meant to give it some texture because the nuts and the dried fruit are going to blend nicely into a paste, but we're going to add some texture to that. So I typically like to use my old-fashioned oats, but sometimes I will add additional cancer fighters or protein like my hemp seeds. You could also add some unsweetened coconut for some interesting flavor. Or you could use, again, some more nuts and seeds and add that to the blender. So 1 cup nuts, 1 cup dried fruit, 1/4 cup of your mix-ins, and you're going to blend that together. Now, if you want, you can also add some more spices. like cinnamon or green matcha tea. This is a loose powder. Such an interesting thing to add to a snack bar, right? And what you're going to find in the end is you're going to get a nice paste that you can either roll into a little snack bite bar, little snack bite ball, or what you could do is you could spread this paste out onto a lined baking pan. You don't even have to do anything else. You're going to slice those bars because they're no bake. You're going to keep them in the fridge. They're going to last for a week. You could even freeze them for a month. And you have managed to make yourself a snack bar that has no added sugar. What a great swap out that is, right? So drop some comments. I'd love to hear from you if you have tried any of these options and if you have any additional questions for me, because I have one more week to try to share with you some nourishing solutions so that you could thrive when you have been diagnosed with kidney cancer. Thank you so much for watching.